getting publicity for your business, getting noticed, getting influencers to mention you, getting out there into the world is not an easy task. In this episode, we will be going through the advice that Jon Card gave in the earlier episode about PR and how Adam actually implements it. Listen along if you want to know more about how to implement the advice on PR, get into magazines, press, influencers, and get your business out into the world and noticed. The extraordinary belongs to those that create it. Rebelling against business plans and debt, rebelling against what society expects of us to build cool businesses, make money, have fun, and do good. Let's create something extraordinary together. Welcome to the Rebel Entrepreneur. Welcome back to the Rebel Entrepreneur Coaching Series. I have back with me Adam from Craftbox Club. Welcome.
Hello, it's good to be back.
You are indeed back. And a couple of episodes ago, we did an episode with Jon Card, who's a writer for The Guardian, The Telegraph, The Times, and an expert on PR stuff. And he gave you lots of information, lots of advice, lots of things to do. What's been going on with the PR stuff? How have you progressed since that interview with Jon Card? What have you tried? What's worked? What's not?
So it was a really useful session. It was a real eye-opener into a world that I haven't really thought about. You know, this is kind of next level stuff for me. I had 3 pages of hastily scribbled notes with diagrams and all sorts all over it. And I've tried to distill that into a few things that I can work on and take forwards. So I think the first thing that I took away, and I was super keen to do this because I like to write. Jon said that I needed to have some kind of bio, like my story in relation to the business. So I went away and basically, wrote what came to mind, and created quite a few pages of story. And then what I've done is shape that into the format that he was mentioning, which is the format that really helps you connect with people and get your story across kind of efficiently, I guess.
Efficiently. Well, that's the idea, is to give people enough that they get excited and not too much that they stop reading halfway through. That's always the bit. So you used that exact structure that Jon gave of what was the trigger moment, what was the transformation, and then the third bit is what's the moral of the story and how have you reacted to that. So you've used that, you've written it, you sent it to us. We failed to reply as yet. Have you put it on the website? Have you sent it to anyone? Have you got any thoughts?
Yeah, so it went into a blog as soon as I could get it onto the website in a blog. So that's available for everybody to have a look at.
Ooh, how do they find that? So if you're listening to this and want to see what Adam's created based on Jon's advice, how do they find that? How do the listeners find what you've created?
So you can go to craftboxclub.com and then head to the blog, which is, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page and hit blog. Or you can go craftboxclub.com/blog if you'd like to do it. And that'll be, depending on when this comes out, that might be buried under loads of other incredible content. At the moment, it's fairly near the top.
It's called the Craftbox Club Story on a mission to spread eco crafts, which I love that. And you've got your mission right at the front. You've got some quotes you've put in. You've got some pictures. Like, you've really brought this to life, which I love.
Yeah, it's got that one of my favorite photos ever of me with a guitar trying to eat a microphone. That's what it looks like. So that it's telling the story of my early creativity through music all the way through to visual art. and then also trying to get across the eco message as well, so that all the kits are plastic free.
I love that. I love that. So, okay, so it's great that we've written that. And the question I always do whenever I do a creative exercise like this, I put something out. It's great that we've written it. What do we do with it?
Well, so I sent it round to a few friends to have a look at, and you get a little bit of light feedback from that, don't you? Oh, that's very nice, but people will tell me very quickly if I'm being an idiot, and I and I got a few that's very nices, so that was kind of helpful. But I've one of the other points that John mentioned was to track hashtag Jono request on
Mm,
Twitter. So I've been having a look at that kind of whenever I've had a spare moment. When you've got a spare 2 minutes or something, it's quite a nice thing just to be able to have a look at. And I found somebody on there who is a journalist who specializes in writing stories that are about eco-friendly things and the environment. And they
ooh,
were requesting some content for a story about eco-friendly businesses. So
I love
um,
that.
there was an email address on there, so I followed up with an email, put the bio in with a load of photos, and yeah, replied directly to that request. And she was keen on doing a story.
I love that. And where have you got to with that particular one as of the moment?
So it's difficult to know really. So she replied and said that she would write it up. I'm not quite sure how journalists work in that they, she doesn't work directly for the Guardian or the Times or something. She's freelance, so she's writing a lot of stories which will come out in some magazines that she writes for around autumn. She was saying autumn to
Okay.
sort of winter time, but I don't know. I know the publications that she's written for before because it's on her website, but I don't know where that story is going to go. It'll go possibly somewhere in there. I guess the journalists probably have to pitch it if they're freelance. So it's not, if she's written the story, it's not guaranteed it's going to go in there. But she wanted to write something about Craft Box Club.
Fantastic. And you've followed up with pictures, you've asked her what she needs, you've checked in to see if she's got everything she wants.
Yeah, that's it. So I've had just 2 follow-ups, and she was asking for some higher res photos. So I sent those through, and at the moment that's it. But I probably need to go back and check in and you know to see if she needs anything else. I don't know.
Well, it's worth
It's
checking
all
in.
new.
It's worth going back and checking in, saying how you're doing, what are you working on. It's also worth just sending, I have 3 ideas for stories. And sometimes that is enough to inspire people. Because if you just go to someone and say, "Is everything okay?"
Yeah,
They'll probably just ignore it or say yes.
yeah,
Uh, Whereas if you go and go, "Okay, have you got what you need? What are you working on? Here's 3 ideas I've had," um, and that is more likely to generate a response. So, for those of you listening to this show right now, the first piece of advice that we got from Jon Card was to check out hashtag, which is the hash sign, journo request on Twitter. And if you do that, you'll see lots of journalists asking for different things that they want. So there's some that are happening right now today. There's people asking for all sorts of different things. There's a quick one. Tell me the most ridiculous, infuriating reason you were denied disability benefits. There's I'm looking for pubs around Ireland with the nicest outdoor areas for a feature. There's lots of people asking for all sorts of different things. I'm looking to speak to people in Cambridge with family abroad. Um, and you go on Journo request, and sometimes there are people asking for exactly your subject. One of the things you can also do is set up a Twitter alert. So anytime Journo request and craft or Journo request and eco friendly, that would be the key terms for Adam, but you can think of them for your business. Set up that alert so that as soon as that comes in, you get notified and you can quickly go back and respond to it. That's sort of the passive way of waiting for press to come to you. You look for what people are after and then reply back with what they're actually writing for at the moment. So, everyone listening to this, you can do this right now. Get your phone out, have a look at hashtag journo request and see what people are asking for right now. Um, so, we've done a little bit of that, but that's kind of waiting for people to come back to us. There's like years of journo requests in Twitter. One thing we could do is look back through old ones and do a Twitter search for journo request craft, journo request eco club. Look through old ones, uh, and then I know they've already written that article, but it might be several years since they've written it. And you could say, "Oh, I've got some ideas for a new article. I saw you wrote this. Here's some inspiration." So we could find people to message through that. Um, yeah, and that's the idea. That's what we've been working on, is getting you into the press, Adam. We've got one lead. I guess we need to find a few more. The challenge with this is it's a fairly time consuming, energy heavy way of doing things, because you have to search, you have to put information out there, you have to send messages, but nothing happens unless you take control and put it out there.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that said, though, it's now that I have a pack together with a bio and I've got some photos to hand. Yeah, and especially I haven't done that. If I was to set that Twitter alert up, then it's quick copy and paste usually, and then there's a paragraph to type out to make sure that you're focused specifically to what they're asking for. And then I can do that pretty quickly. At the moment, though, having done, I haven't searched the old ones, but having kept on top of the new ones, it's been kind of few and far between asking for stuff to do with the environment and crafting. Um,
Yes.
like we've talked about before, that craft being a kind of seasonal thing, people possibly won't be asking specifically about doing articles about crafts in the newspaper at this time of year. Um, Although, like I said, a lot of people are writing for magazine articles which will be published at Christmas now. So I guess it's just a case of combing journal request and keeping an eye out for some of that stuff. To see what's there.
Then there's the proactive bit of finding the actual magazines that you want to be in, finding the authors that have written the articles in the past and directly messaging them saying, "I've got stuff for your next Christmas article, your next this article." And I know we're only in June. However, Christmas is such a big thing. In many industries, they're already starting to think about it and warm up towards it. And if we want to get you set up for Christmas, now's the time to start looking at who's writing those articles. You don't want to get to November and then be messaging them, because they will already have written the articles, they're already be coming out. We need to get in front of that. So there's the proactive bit. And I think, as with all marketing, there's the passive stuff and there's the proactive stuff. And the passive stuff is waiting for the hashtag journo request to come up. Like, we're just waiting. The passive stuff is waiting for people to contact us. The proactive stuff is sending messages out there. I saw you wrote this, thought this would be a good idea for an article. I saw this, and you're actively going out to people, messaging them, getting involved, talking, which you are actually very good at doing that. Um, and we always need a balance of the two, the passive and the proactive. And getting into PR stuff can be quite passive at times, because you write your pack, you put it online, and then you wait for stuff to come to you. That's not always going to get you where you want to get to. It's the proactive reaching out to journalists, speaking to people, sending messages to influencers. It's very similar. I mean, a journalist is just an influencer with a magazine, an influencer with a paper, an influencer with a radio show. An influencer is someone who's online with their own platform that's built on Instagram, Facebook, something else. So it's that proactiveness. So I guess you've built the kit. How have you done on the photos? Because I know Jon was saying about spending money on photos. I know the general thing at Rebel Entrepreneur is, let's see if we can do it for free. How have you got on with photos? Have you got some photos you're happy with? Have you managed to, what happened?
Yeah, so I kind of cringe when I hear you've got to spend some money. Um, personally, it's just like I count up how many craft boxes I've got to sell before I can get that money back. Um, but I've sort of thought about it. We talked online a little bit about getting friends to do it. There's I'm kind of out in the middle of nowhere where I am at the moment, and there's not a lot of people coming over because of COVID still and all that kind of stuff. I had a few people over, and we planned to do a kind of a trial run of a photo shoot, but it just never happened in the day with kids everywhere, and you're trying to do stuff, yeah. So trying to do it for free just wasn't really happening. Um, so what I've done is I put a request out on a local Facebook group to get some recommendations of really great photographers. And I'd spoken to a couple, and the prices were kind of terrifying um,
What
for
were they
brand
quoting you?
shoots. So it was £600 as kind of like a starter brand photo shoot.
Wow,
Um,
which is about $900 if you're listening in America, which is like that's a lot of craft box club sets you have to sell to recoup that kind of money.
Yeah, sure is, and we're talking about doing an investment for the long term. But even so, I wasn't really comfortable with that. But I found someone that I really wanted to work with, and that I thought would be a really great fit. The photographer is really super into crafts and love the kits. So I did really want to work for her. So we managed to arrange a kind of stripped down package, not stripped down photos. That's something else. But a lighter brand photo shoot, which has come in at a price that I'm a bit more comfortable with.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, stripped down photo shoot, strategically placed craft box. You never know, it might get you customers. I think you should be open to everything, Adam. Um, yeah, especially the team always like to send me into nice photos at the Rebel Business School. But anyway, like I think that's fantastic. So, what kind of price have you got for the deal this time, if it's more acceptable?
It's 250 for this one. We've agreed, doing a bit of social media promotion between the two of us as well, which I'm happy to do, and she'll promote on her social media as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be really really add value at that level.
Perfect, perfect. So you've done a little bit of a deal. You've swapped some value instead of cash. It's going to work for you and work for her. And this is an investment that these photos you can use over the next few years to promote what you're doing, to share around the place. Like these are the photos that are really going to sell what you're doing. And having good photos of your business and what you do is essential in modern day marketing. Those photos are going to be used on Facebook, Instagram, your website. Like we do get value from them, and photographers can bring huge value. When you're starting, it's always ideal if you can find a friend to do it for free for you, or find someone, create your own. But as you get going, I mean, the quality of the photos are what sells. And I'm similar to you, Adam. I never like spending money. I like to do as much of it as I can for free. However, it's the face of your business. You sell online. It's like if I go to Google Maps and I'm searching for breakfast, the quality of the photos on that cafe's website are what sells it to me. And if they've got really good photos of the food, I'm like, oh, that looks good. If the photos are poorly lit and the food looks a bit sloppy and rubbish, I move on very quickly. And those photos directly affect whether I become their customer or not. And it's exactly the same for you. Your window is online. Anyone listening to this, if you secure most of your business online, if you market online, the quality of your photos does make a big difference. And I hate to say it, but if your business is making money, this is an area to invest some money into. If your business is not yet making money, this is an area to invest some time and energy into, and go to YouTube and search for, how do I take better photos? How do I take better photos of my product? How do I take better photos of myself for my PR? Anything you can do to raise the standard of your photos if you're online promoting will have an impact. So when's the date? When do we get to see these photos of you with strategically placed craft boxes?
Exactly. So the shoot's on Monday, but we've already done quite a lot of work in terms of picking colours and things like that. Like, so you mentioned photos of the food. So the exercise that she's taking me through, this the photographer, is identifying 5 different parts of my life and finding 3 or 4 photos that are to do with that on Pinterest or something like that. So we put a kind of like a photo board together, and one of the areas of my life is definitely food. I've got a lot of kind of really colourful photos of food that I've chosen colours from. It's food, and then guitars and adventure and stuff like that. And we've come up with a color palette to inspire the photos so far. So yeah, I think it's, all of this thought process around telling the story as well as the photos is really going to help.
I love that. I love that. So basically, what we're building here is the pack of information that you can use to promote your business, promote your story, tell what you're doing, and to share. Then we need to find out where you're going to stick it.
Are you going to tell me where to stick it?
Meant in the politest possible way. Because I know lots of people have created this kind of stuff. They create the journalist pack, they create the photos, and then it just gets left in the drawer or sat in a file on your computer and doesn't go anywhere. And there's no point building something unless you share it. And it's exactly the same as our website Wednesday at Rebel Business School that we keep saying. There's this saying out there from Field of Dreams and Kevin Costner: if you build it, they will come. And it's the biggest lie out there, Adam. If you build it, no one will come unless you tell them about it, and you have to stick it somewhere. So you have to take your pack and send it to people, share it. You have to message out there. You have to communicate. You have to speak to influencers. You have to make friends. You have to create collaborations. You have to drive out there into the world with this new content, because building it is only step one.
So that, yeah, the short answer to where am I going to stick it is everywhere.
We've got to be very careful with this analogy now. But yes, I like that mentality. Stick it everywhere. I like that mentality. So tell me, how are you going to take this journo pack, what you've created, the story, all of these different bits? How are we going to get it out there?
So there's the passive stuff like Twitter, and then also there's something that's a little bit more active, which I've got
Ooh.
into recently. There is a paid for, but it's only a $5 a month. So I'm doing this as another kind of mini experiment, and you pay for entry to a private Facebook group, and it's just a Facebook group for entrepreneurs and journalists to share stories. And the idea is that it's on one hand, it's a little bit like the journal request hashtag, is that there's journalists on there who are asking for content for certain stories that they're writing, and you can get back in touch very quickly just by commenting on that post. So I've been keeping my eye out for things on there, and then you can also pitch. So you sort of hashtag it with pitch at the top of a post, and then there's a format that they ask for a pitch. So there's 2 things on my to-do list next for that group, which is firstly to introduce myself. So I'm waiting for the photos to do that, since that's only a week away. and then I need to think of a few story ideas to do pitches to that group. And
Love
that
that.
I picked the group because I've managed to get in touch with somebody else who's been running a craft subscription for a while, and they recommended that group because they get quite a lot of press through it.
What's the group called?
It is called,
What do I search for on Facebook?
I think it's something like Spark. Let me just check. Oh no, it's not Spark. It's Entrepreneur and Press Hangout Lightbulb.
Entrepreneur and Press Hangout Lightbulb. Really catchy title.
Yeah, so they when you go to join, they direct you to a website where you set up the £5 a month thing,
Okay.
and you put your email in. Then they grant you access, and that took just 24 hours to get access to that. So that's all journalists and entrepreneurs on there. And I've had a bit of success with this in the past. That somebody else was on a similar group, someone who was at Rebel Business School originally, and they said that somebody was looking for a story for some things to do over lockdown. So I managed to get into the Daily Mail through one of these groups before. So I was quite keen to be on it.
And how did that impact you being on the Daily Mail? Do you think it actually, what did it do for you?
So I got 10 customers specifically from seeing me in the printed copy of the Daily Mail. Some people even called me up
Wow.
and said, "Hey, you've been in the Daily Mail. Can I buy your thing?" I went, "Yes, the website." But yeah, so the 10 at the time was fairly significant, to be honest. But then being on there increased my Google ranking straight away. That was around the time that I got onto the front page of Google for the keywords that I wanted to be on there for. So that helped quite a lot.
So it sounds like it's a high value activity that we need to do more of.
Yes, absolutely. So that kind of leads me on to another part, that it's great to get the big press coverage, like the Times's, Guardians, Daily Mails, for the immediate sales. But I feel like there's some other websites that I should be targeting that are specifically to do with craft, that would probably boost my Google rankings more than some of those.
Well, yes, because they're actual craft websites that mention and talk about craft and being eco-friendly that link directly to yours. Google's going to go, okay, this website is linked, they're talking about each other, as opposed to just a general one that talks about you. So I think absolutely. And I think what I'd like to say to everyone listening to this is it's pretty much the same process no matter what you're doing here. Whether we're reaching out to individual websites, magazines, whether we're reaching out to journalists, whether we're reaching out to influencers, it's pretty much exactly the same process because it's selling to people. You're not reaching out to a business, you're not reaching out to a magazine, you're reaching out to a person that works there. And it's the same thing. We find the person, we find out what they're interested in, we send them a message, we make friends. It doesn't really matter what type of thing it is. We make friends and create that connection, and then we can collaborate, come up with ideas, work out what to do. But it all has to start with us reaching out. And I think sometimes we think, and I know I do, I've been guilty of this. I think there's some kind of secret. There's some kind of way of doing it. There's some kind of special thing that we need to do. In general, there isn't. It's about making friends. It's about adding value. It's about reaching out with ideas. It's about sharing things, and you do it in the right way. And who knows what happens? And I had, well, there's lots that have happened to me recently, but one particular, I had a friend send a message and said, "Look, here's this entrepreneur. He was on the BBC. It's a great article about him saying you don't need money to start a business. He started his off the back of a bet with some friends and £500. And he's now built a £6 million a year turnover business off the back of a bet. You should interview him on on your podcast. So I wrote him a really nice email saying, I think you're inspiring. Do you want to come on my show? And he said yes immediately. And it comes from me reaching out, someone noticing things. It comes from being involved in that stuff. And this takes time and effort and energy, but the results can be huge. So I don't think there's a real mystery here, Adam. I don't think there's something. And to everyone listening, there's no real secret or mystery. It's reaching out and making friends. And in the Christina episodes for season 1 of the coaching, and we had Eric Finnegan on the show talking about sending cold emails and how you connect with people. It's just reaching out and connecting with people, whether it's cold emails, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram. And everyone listening to this, that's all you've got to do is start getting out into the world, start commenting on their stuff, connecting, sending messages. So my challenge to everyone listening to this today is send 10 messages. Find 10 people you'd like to speak to and send them messages. I don't really care where it is, how you do it. Send them an email, send them a message on their website, fill out their contact form. Just connect with them, offer them value, ideas, share. There's no real mystery. And I think that's what we've got to do. The challenge with this comes when everyone says there must be a quicker way of doing this. I need to shortcut it. I need to do this. I need to do that. And I think to start with, it's the individual reaching out. And the second bit, which I'm not very good at, Adam, is making a list of all of these people that you've spoken to. So you've been in the Daily Mail. You've got that journalist's contact details. When was the last time you wrote to them?
uh, oh, about a week after the article came out.
And we never go back to these people. Yeah, Adam's pulling his hands up
my
in
head
the air.
on the wall.
But these people that know us, they already know us. So to start with, we've got to create a connection. That's the hardest part. And then the second bit, we stay in touch every now and again. Are you planning any more articles on being eco-friendly? Are you planning any articles on the Christmas plastic explosion that's just about to happen and how we can counter it for our environment? Like, what are you up to? How are you doing? That article was amazing. You helped me get 10 customers. Thank you so much for helping me with my business. Love you. Uh, like just connecting and reaching out. So I think the bit that I've never been good at, and I have to admit I'm not good at this, Adam, but is so important, is the making the list of the people you've messaged and then continuing to stay on their radar. So messaging them every now and again, sending them a picture, commenting on their stuff on Facebook, Twitter, wherever it is, so you pop up and they see you and they're like, "Oh, it's Adam at Craftbox Club. That article was great. We should do something else." But if they don't have that reminder, they've written the one thing, they never hear from you again. Why would they think about it again?
Yeah, absolutely. I've made a note to go back to some of the people who've written about me in the past for sure. That makes a lot of sense, and I couldn't agree more with the power of making friends and reminding people that you're still there. I think I had a bit of practice doing this as being possibly one of the most average bands in Southampton, but getting booked for some of the best venues by having a press pack or having a pack for venues to look at, reminding them that I was still there and turning up on time. It's powerful stuff, doing stuff like that. And I don't think I've got a job in the corporate world without making friends with people first, particularly. So I couldn't agree more. I would say I'm finding it surprisingly hard to make friends with the craft magazines.
Ooh.
It's been quite frustrating. So I've got a list of about I've worked through probably about 8 to 10 different people. So I've tried to find authors on specific sites, and I'm particularly trying to get in touch with somebody who wrote about me in a top 10. Um,
Ooh,
so there's the top of the keyword search that I want to appear for is an article by a magazine called Gathered, and I'm listed as one of the top 10 craft subscriptions, and I want to say thank you to the person that wrote the article, and I can't do it. It's so difficult. Um, it's I've found them on Twitter and Instagram. There's no email addresses I've been able to find, but they're just not active on any of those. So it's been surprisingly difficult to break in. I think what happens is that the craft magazines get a lot of sort of fairly random crafters to do that, to write their articles for them. So a lot of them aren't professional journalists, you'd say. They're kind of dabbling in the odd article. So it seems to be harder to get hold of them because they're sort of more just individuals. I think once I get the details and get and to get in touch with them, it'll be quite easy to make friends. But yeah, that's been surprisingly frustrating to get hold of the people on there so far.
interesting. Very
Hmm.
interesting. So have you contacted the magazine directly?
No, so I haven't contacted the magazine. I've just written to find the editors maybe. Um, I gathered again. I think makes it a little bit tricky to. I can't remember why, but it seemed quite tricky to get in touch with anybody. Um,
Well, they have an
but yeah,
email address. They have their social media. So if you go to their gathered page, contact us. They have an email address. They have the social media. They have where you can write to them. Like if you're having trouble getting through to them, sometimes an actual physical letter, I don't know,
hmm.
craft them something that says gathered on it, send it to them, say, I love your content, and see where that gets you. Like, there's ways to do it. I think it's the persistent. And if you go down, they've got the list of people about wanting to advertise on Gathered. There's no reason why you can't just speak to those people about advertising, find out what the deal is, find out what the price is, talk to them. There's loads of stuff there. And then you've got, I have questions about my magazine, and some of them have emails next to them. Uh, there's all sorts of information on there and ways we could get going tracking these people down. But I think the more noise you make, the more messages you send, the more people you speak to, the more you put out there into the world, the more you'll get noticed.
Yeah, for sure. So that's great. I'll follow up with them. I think where I was I'd done the kind of shotgun approach where I tried to, I went out to a lot of people to start with, which kind of looked like the lowest hanging fruit, because they were the individuals who'd written specific articles and things like that, and that's not got anywhere. Which kind of, I would kind of expected like one to come back from that. So now we've got to go in for the next, the, the next level, which will be targeting that a little bit more and spending a bit more time on those individual magazines, going a little bit higher up the chain.
So, when you said you did the shotgun approach, how many messages did you send out into the world? Because what that means is it kind of like sent out all these messages and then hoped for a response. How many messages did you send?
So it was just one to each of the magazines. So say about 10 magazines or online blogs, and then maybe five Instagram influencers. And again, that was for with the Instagram influencers, I managed to get a bit further, and got as far as being featured on their blog and that sort of thing. So that's a bit easier to get into on Instagram, and it's much easier to make friends with people who've got active blogs because they're always on Instagram,
Yes.
so it's really easy to talk to them. But that's quite short lived, the impact that you can have on there. I think if you can get onto websites and get a link on a website, then that's much higher value. So it's probably worth spending a bit more time doing.
And if you sent 8 to 10 messages to magazines, what's a normal return rate for cold emails?
Uh, well, so I've sent because I sent it to individuals at magazines. My expectation was that one person would get back because they're people. But I don't know what I should really have expected.
Which one person coming back to you is like a 12 or 13% return rate. Which for cold emails, that would be spectacular because people are busy. My email inbox is flooded. If you're listening to this and I've not replied to you, I'm really sorry. I have such a full inbox. But there's so many messages that you get hit by. Like, when did you send this message to them? How long ago?
About 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Okay. So you sent one message. We've had no response. Should we give up?
No, absolutely
um,
not.
I don't know if I've ever told you the story. I wanted to get Twitter to sponsor the Rebel Business School. I thought they'd be the most amazing sponsor. We talk about Twitter a lot on the course because you can directly reach out to people, you can send direct messages. It's actually a really useful tool. Facebook is a lot harder to reach out to people you don't know. Twitter's actually really easy to reach out to people you don't know. So I was like, I need Twitter as a sponsor. So I did the obvious thing, which is I went to Facebook and put a post out saying, "Do any of my friends know anyone at Twitter?" Which I probably should use Twitter to get to Twitter, but I used Facebook. And someone sent me the link to the CEO. Someone sent me a few other bits, and then one person said, "Oh, my friend's an engineer at Twitter," uh, and linked him in the post. I was like, "Awesome!" So I replied saying, "Thanks for the link." I introduced myself, said, "Like, maybe you can help me. I just want to find the right person to speak to." And he said, "Let me go away and come back to you." And then I was left waiting, and there was a big pause. What do I do then, Adam? Do I just
uh,
wait politely? Do I
uh,
act like a British person?
Absolutely not. How dare
I
you?
I did wait politely for like a week and a half or so, and then I messaged back saying, "Oh, any luck? Did you speak to anyone?" And I didn't hear anything for another time. And then I messaged back, said, "Did you hear anything?" And he said, "Oh yeah, sorry, I'm just busy doing this, doing that." And like, it's very rarely that people are ignoring you out of rudeness. They're just busy with their own lives. So I've had two ignores already to get there, and then he sends me the information for the person I need to speak to. And I'm like, yes, through to the next level. So I send this email off. What do you think happens?
A little nothing again for a
Another
bit.
nothing. So I've been ignored 3 times. So then I send another message off. What do you think happens that time?
A bit more nothing.
It's a lot of silence and grey space.
Little silence.
Nothing at all. And then eventually I send another email off, and he says, "Oh, yeah, it sounds really good. We should have a chat." Um, we got on the phone, and it's one of the best chats I think I've ever had. We just connected. It was phenomenal. He got the idea. He bought in. It was epic, and I was like, "This is it. This is it." Uh, he said at the end of the meeting, he said, "Send me some stuff," which I always hate that close to meetings because you're sending stuff and then waiting for them to get back to you. So I sent him some stuff, and then I'm waiting again. Do, do, do. Waiting, waiting, waiting. What do you think happened next?
Some more waiting. No,
It was a
you
lot more
you got you
waiting.
got back.
Yeah, and then eventually I send him a message and say like, okay, like what's going on, and then I get like a one line email back saying it's not for us, and I was heartbroken at that stage. I put so much energy and effort into it. I'd been ignored so many times, and I'd actually made it through to the right person. And so I was like, well, what do I do with this? And I played the I want to learn card. So I wrote back saying, thank you very much for telling me. Um, I really want to know why. I'm trying to learn. You can't hurt my feelings. be brutal, tell me everything. Like, I can take it. The only way I can improve is if people like you tell me how to improve. Please help me. Um, and he replied, and he let me have it, which
Wow.
was really helpful, but quite painful. And there was all sorts of feedback in there, but it helped us to improve our image for the next time we went out. And it wasn't long after that that I landed Microsoft as a sponsor for the Rebel Business School, and they sponsored 2 events. But it was very, like, it was a long journey to get there. Um, you've sent one email to 8 to 10 people and been ignored once. What do you think my message is to you, Adam?
Keep going. I think that this
Uh,
is the thing that that this is what I keep trying to do is have stuff always going on in the background, and have different projects going on at different time at the same time, so that you can keep going, and eventually maybe something will come through. And yeah, so at the moment today we're talking about PR, but there's a few other experiments that are going on in the background. Then I'll get around to doing some more PR, and I'll just I'll make sure that I keep driving forward, and keep coming up with the next step along the journey.
so I think to everyone listening to this, what we need to do is get systematic. So Adam's got his list of 8 to 10 craft magazines. Like, expand that, expand the names on there, find the people working for them, uh, find 20 to 30 names, maybe more, because if you're not sending out 20 to 30, you're probably not going to get anyone replying because you're not sending out enough. And a 10% response rate is very high. So if you're getting less than that, like, that's okay, but you need to send more messages to get through to a few people. Then what I'd be doing is setting in my calendar every 2 weeks, like today's PR hour, and I'll go through all of the people that have ignored me for the last 2 weeks, send them another message, connect with them, reinvigorate, go forwards, and then I'll do it again in 2 weeks, and I'll do it again in 2 weeks. And if I've heard nothing after 5 or 6 connections, like, I'll drop them off the list and bring more people onto the list. But it's that kind of persistency over time that I think we all forget to do. And that kind of persistency over time was what served me very well when I launched Rebel Business School. And now, if you speak to James, who leads sales and promotions for Rebel Business School, like, he is just incredibly persistent. And we've got quite a good brand within councils and housing associations, but he still has to write message after message, email after email to continually get through to people, and he'll be ignored most of the time. And he is a special spirit because he doesn't care. He just keeps going. And I think to everyone listening to this, you will be ignored. It is okay. We just need to keep going and keep sending and keep persistent, because it's not the best that win, it's the most persistent.
Mic drop.
So, how does all this make you feel, Adam? What's your reaction to those stories, that information? How does it make you feel? What are you thinking about this?
So I'm up for it. It's one of these things that I think with the first year of doing this, it was that I was doing a lot of things that produced small but kind of instant feedback, and now this is the next thing that it will take a fair bit more time, to hopefully get a bigger result. So it's more of an investment, and it's a bit more. It's like the sort of business to business selling. We're like you said, it's all people, isn't it? But it's a different kind of strategy to what I've done before. So yeah, it's all new, but I'm really enjoying learning about it, and taking the next step. I feel like the photos will make a really big difference, because especially for lifestyle and craft magazines, people don't want to come and take their own photos. People want photos that they can copy from what you've got, stick them straight in the magazine. And I think where I've done quite a lot of work to get to a good standard for taking photos of my kits that will be enough to sell to people. But I just looking at some other Instagram feeds recently that have had press coverage, they're just in another league. It'll be great getting the professional photographer along, but I'm really going to try and learn from that experience and improve my own photos as well. I've kind of tidied up bits of the house so I can take photos with more kind of context, because a lot of them, you see my studio, a lot of the photos are just taken against it's a flat lay on top of the table because I wanted to crop out all of the mess. Uh, but that can only take you a certain way. So now I've got like a smart desk that I've got from the neighbour's garage. And, in a nice corner where the wall's white behind it and everything. So I'm taking a different level of photos against that, and so I think that will really help.
Absolutely. And another thing we can do is start to look at the photos that make it into these magazines and then start to recreate our own versions of them with good energy. And like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Copy what's working, make your own version, but make it slightly better. And if they like that type of photos, that's the type of photos that will get you noticed. And then we can try a few other random crazy bits because I like a few random crazy bits. Um, but it's definitely the quality of the photos. And if you're working with a magazine, what does like Jon Card said last time, what does the magazine owner actually want, magazine journalist actually want? They want you to make their life easy. They've got to write a certain number of articles. If you can provide them with the pictures and the text and story, and all they have to do is top and tail it and add their little bits to it, like their life is made so easy. They're going to love you for it. I always love it when people are coming on the podcast and they make my life easy. Like I get the photo quickly, uh, the description writes itself, the podcast episode is easy. Like, just if people make my life easy, I love it and I'm more likely to do it with them. If it's work, sometimes people send me requests, Adam, to come on the show, and the request alone is like 3 pages long. And I'm like, I really have to read all this? I really have to do this? Like, it's too difficult. And they rarely make it through to the guests that I speak to. And it's definitely about making people's life as easy as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
So, what are the next actions for Adam at Craftbox Club based on this chat today? What are you going to do with this information? How are you going to implement it? Where are we going next?
So, starting from the beginning, I need to go onto Twitter and get some Twitter alerts set up so I don't have to scroll all day for journal requests. I need to go onto the that Facebook group and introduce myself and do a pitch, as well as keep looking for a few journalists who are after stories. I'll do that after I've done my photo shoot on Monday, with a
Yes.
whole load of fresh images. Um, and also, yeah, I need to start reaching out and being proactive with craft magazines in particular, and especially crafts websites that are ranking highly for my keywords, so I can hopefully get featured in an article or I'm really after the top 10 craft boxes.
Yeah, if we can find those people, if we can connect with them, if we can make friends, it's the right time to be doing it. And yeah, we need to be doing that each probably fortnight, sending out new messages and then expand our list, send out more messages, expand our list, send out more messages, and doing everything we can to connect with those people as we go. That proactive marketing is going to get you noticed.
Can I run another idea past you as well, while we're there, for reaching out, for getting featured on those top 10s?
Tell me.
Uh, So there's something that I've been resistant to so far is being on the likes of Etsy and not on the high street. I've just been selling through my website. Um, However, when you look at the top tens,
Yes.
it does very much look like they've been written based on somebody having a look at what's on Etsy.
Yes,
Um,
because that's where people go to search for things. That's where they're looking.
yeah. So I do wonder whether it's worth being on there, not so much for selling, but just for being in an easy collection for somebody to find if they're writing that sort of article.
Well, I think going direct to the people who are writing those sort of articles will solve that issue and will be better. You could even write a not on the high street, not on the high street. Like you're not on the high street and you're not on the highstreet.com type article. Uh, Reaching out directly is always the best way. Being found in places is a good way, and people are lazy when they're writing articles. That's normal. They will go to where there's an easy list that they can look down. They'll find 10 good ones, and that's their job done. Um, I guess the thoughts in my head is the cost benefit analysis. So I know being on Etsy costs, being not on a high street might cost. How much does it cost? Is it going to work? And then one always comes back to the do a mini experiment. Like, let's do a mini experiment. Let's put it on these sites for a couple of months and see what happens. Because they might bring you in a varied range of customers. They might get you on a few lists and get you noticed. We don't know. Is it worth a mini experiment?
Yeah, so I think not on the high street. Last time I looked was reasonably steep, but for Etsy to
Mm-hmm.
list it's 20p, I think. Um, the cost of being on there is sometimes that if you've written the same description on Etsy, Google will go, it's a duplicate. I'm going to knock your website down because there's two things. So that it's a dangerous game, but it's possible to word it in such a way that it's not exact. If I don't copy and paste, then that might work okay. But I've been a bit worried about being on there because of that negative impact.
Yes. Well, there is a way to do it slightly differently, or there is a way to have a couple of your kits that are only on Etsy. So take a couple of your older kits, take them off your website, and just put them on Etsy. And then you've got something completely different on both services. And Google should have less of a problem with that.
Yeah, yeah. All right, that's an idea.
So it's worth having a go. Like, I do not know the answer to this question, whether it's worth it or not. The only way to know is to have a go. And lots of times, like people say, should I do this, Alan? I'm like, I don't know. Should we try it? How much does it cost? Is it worth an experiment? And sometimes it's not. I guess the question I would ask back to you, do you think it's worth spending your time getting on Etsy versus worth spending your time reaching out to these individuals? Which do you think will give the higher return for now?
It seems quite even, to be honest, because the reaching out to the individuals, they're not going to be the people that write the articles necessarily. So it might be quite hard to find the people who are actually going to write the articles because they kind of farm them out to random individuals. So when the people are writing the articles, there's quite a high chance they'll have a look on Etsy, and then they'll be found that way. Um, so I don't know, but then that's sort of like a passive thing, and so yeah,
Let's
I
do
mean
both then.
they see yeah, it seems like there's time enough to do both. Obviously, one's going to take away from the time to do the other. Um, but I think once I'm on Etsy, then that's done, isn't it? That's there's not a whole load of time maintaining that. So yeah, I'll do that and then put that to one side and sort of forget about it and see if that brings anything through, and then
I
start
love
doing
that.
more of the proactive stuff. Let's do that.
Yes. Yeah, it's good to set up the reactive stuff because if you're not on these places, how can people find you? And it's good to do that. And then we need to do the proactive as well. So we have to have the stuff where people can find you, and you've done that through your website. You set up the website, which is a reactive tool, like it's sat there waiting for people to find it. Then you've got to do the work, getting people to it, sending the messages, driving the traffic. And it's the same with Etsy. It's the same with all of them. And the more places you can be found, the more likely people are randomly searching for you and find you. So yeah, there's an element of do the reactive work and then wait, and then go and do the proactive work. So let's do an experiment. Let's see what happens.
All right, we're back in the lab.
We're back in the lab. I don't think we ever leave the lab, Adam. I'm still doing mini experiments to this day on my business. We did one this year where we created a completely new model for the Rebel Business School, and we sent it out to the world to see how they reacted. And I kept saying to people, it's just an experiment. If 5 people buy, we've got a new product. If no one buys, we'll pretend it never happened. And I don't think you ever leave the lab as a business person. We're going to be constantly experimenting, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. And then we do take the experiments that do work and we double down with our energy on them. And I think that's a very important piece that people forget sometimes is, oh, this experimented worked. It got me a lot of business. It got me some stuff. Well, if it worked, go and do it 50 more times. Go and do it 100 more times. And then we can run some more experiments afterwards. But we've got to double down on the stuff that works through this series of mini experiments we're running.
Yes, learning makes it fun.
Absolutely. Adam, thank you so much for your energy and sharing what works and what doesn't with everyone listening to the Rebel Entrepreneur podcast. If you're listening to this right now, what we all want is for your business to succeed and for you to start making money doing what you love. The 3 things I would love you to go and test following this podcast is, number 1, go and look at #journorequest, see what's there, set up some alerts, send some messages. Number 2, create a list of journalists, magazines, influencers that you would like to make friends with, and then start making and sending messages every couple of weeks. And then number 3, I would love you to go and review the photos you're currently using for your business. Are they selling you? Are they doing you justice? Are they of a good enough quality? And then, once you've reviewed them, think about the photos you would like to create. Go on YouTube and look up, how do I create good looking photos of my product? There are YouTube videos of experts that can help you make it better. A little bit of thought and energy that you put into this will pay dividends. So there's the top 3 actions. Please go out there, build your business, build something extraordinary, make it happen. If it's to be, it's up to you. You can have any life you want to. Choose to build something cool. Choose to take action. Choose to work to make your dreams become reality. Stand out. Be different. Be yourself. Be a rebel entrepreneur.